Good evening, instructor, Dr. Dean. Good evening, my fellow classmates. My name is Rachel Chukuka. I am from Aspen University, and today I'm going to talk about Module 7 assignment, which is the anatomy and physiology. So I'm going to talk about some questions, some things that Dr. Dean asked us to do a presentation about. And it's all going to be involve our special senses. I'm going to read the question to you. The scenario is this. Imagine you are driving or biking on a high traffic road, and you are approaching an intersection with a four-way stop and railway train track. Additionally, there are 3 cars in the other lane of the intersection, and visibility is decreased because of foggy weather. What are you going to do? What it meant is that is either you are biking or you are driving, and then you come to an intersection which is a four-way intersection, and that place is foggy. So what are you going to do that time? What are you going to do? Because now your visibility, that's your vision, is being impacted. You can't see far away from yourself. So now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my special senses. And what are these special senses? My special senses that I'm going to use that time, one is auditory, number 2 is visual, and number 3 is my brain. I'm still going to talk about visual, despite the fact it's been impacted by the foggy, but my visual still function. It still function. How do I see the foggy? It was through my eyes that I see that everywhere is foggy, so it's still functioning. I cannot use it to see far. So, but there are 2 main things I'm going to use in this foggy period. I'm going to use my brain and also my auditory. Now, let's go ahead and explain auditory. But first and foremost, let's talk about the equilibrium. What is equilibrium? Equilibrium is the body position and balance. Now, let's talk about the auditory. Since the visibility is decreased due to foggy weather condition, the visual part is no longer in use, like I said earlier. Now, auditory part, how do we use it? Now, let's go detail into that. Sound waves from surrounding are received by our pineal canal. Auditory means our ear. So the sound wave that is coming from the car and the train is being received by what we call the pinna of the ear. Then it passes through the external auditory canal and reaches the tympanic membrane. So the tympanic membrane is in our brain. So when it passes through there, it goes through our brain, where the ossicular chain, which contain 3 bones, which are malleolus, incus, and stapes, which amplifies sound. These 3 things amplify sound into our brain. We're still going on the auditory part. These three things that we mentioned, the amplified sound reaches the organs of the cortex, where the sound is being converted into electric signal. This electric signal reaches the brain stem and then transmitted to the cerebrum. The electric sound transmits everything to our brain and is being received by the cerebrum. On the auditory part again, they said the primary auditory cortex lies in the temporal lobes of the cerebrum. Finally, sound is being performed by the parental and frontal lobes of the brain cerebrum cortex. The sound that we are hearing is being performed by the parental and occipital lobe. That's where we get the sound from. And it goes to the cerebrum cortex. Okay, we talk about the auditory. Now let's talk about the visual. Despite the fact we are not going to use it, but we're still going to explain what our visual is going to do for us. Now we're going to classify this visual into 4 neuron pathway. Number 1 is the photoreceptors. Secondly is bipolar cell. Thirdly is the ganglion cell, which is the optic. And the fourth one is the lateral geniculate body, which is the optic radiation. We are talking about the senses right now. So the visual part, what contains in our retina, photoreceptor? We have 2 things that contain in our retina photoreceptor. Those 2 things are the rod and the cone. Light reaches the retina of the eye, and the photoreceptor cell convert the light energy into electric signal. This process is known as phototransduction. On the visual part again, this fiber then reach to the lateral geniculate body. A thalamic nucleus provide a relay station for electric signal. On the visual part, this electric signal is received by bipolar. You know, we talk about the 4 neuron, right? So the electric signal is being received by the bipolar cell of the retina and then travel along the optic nerves because it remains uncrossed. The uncrossed nasal fiber and the uncrossed temporal fiber from the optic nerves. This fiber then reach to the lateral geniculate body through the optic tract. The lateral geniculate body, a thalamic nucleus, provide a relay station from the electric signal. Or still on the visual part, the neuron of the lateral geniculate body projects by the way of the optic radiation to the pericardial cortex of the occipital lobe, which is a primary criteria for the vision. What are we talking about? This one is talking about how the vision will function. Despite the fact we can't use it to see, but the vision still function because our rod and our cone is still working. Those are still working for us. It's part of the senses. So they still transmit information to us, like the lights. When the light is on, it's our vision that will transmit that, not our auditory or our brain. Now, we talk about the auditory, we talk about the vision. What about the brain? The brain is part of the senses too. When the brain receives electric impulse, it analyzes and interprets to the auditory cortex in the temporal lobe. When the brain hears the sound, it analyzes it to the temporal lobes. That, okay, there's a car on the other intersection. You just have to listen. You have to be careful. That's what the brain is telling you now. Then the brain, the nerve carrying information, which is the raw stimuli from the eye and the ear, relay the signal to the specific lobe of the cerebral cortex. This triggers the release of neurotransmitter synapses and reaches the receptor, which interprets at the site like vision impulses and sound hearing impulses. The brain takes the information right now. It sends it to the ear, which is our auditory. It said, listen, Despite the fact you cannot see, there is a sound on the other side of the road. So your ear listen. If there is a light coming, the brain will transmit that to you. So you know what to do at that point. So I will use my three, in conclusion, I will use my three senses, which is my visual, my auditory, and my brain to cross the intersection. Thank you so much for listening to me, and have a wonderful day. Bye.